Hello friends, welcome to my class today. Today we'll be dealing with the next topic in respiratory system, that is lung cyst and tumor. So lung cyst means it is some fluid filled cavities inside the lung, and tumors are solid abnormal growth of a tissue that is called as tumors. Okay, so lung cyst is, so coming to definition, lung cyst are sacs of tissue on the lungs filled with air or fluid. Okay, so they are like a sac of tissue. In this, inside that there may be air or fluid which is filling inside the lung. This is due to some problem in the growth of the tissues, or some abnormal cells are keeping growing, and thereby they form a sac filled with air or fluid inside the lungs, that is called as lung cyst. And next, coming to lung tumor, it is also known as lung carcinoma. Carcinoma is cancer which is a malignant condition. So malignant means they can spread to other parts of the body. So malignant condition of the lung characterized by uncontrolled growth of the cells in the lung tissues. Okay, so the lung tissues are growing faster uncontrollably, and they are forming abnormal cells, that is called as lung tumor. Okay, next, coming to the causes of lung cyst and tumor. Okay, so first is smoking. Okay, so the main cause of lung cancer is smoking. So smoking can be a cigarette smoking or a passive smoking. Passive smoking is also called a second hand smoke. That means a person will not actually smoke, but he will stand near the person who is smoking. So the fumes of the smoke gas can be inhaled by the other person. Okay, so that is passive smoking. Then marijuana or cannabis. So these are all weeds or drug abuse related smoke. So when a person is smoking any of this, he can go for lung cancer, because of this smoke can cause abnormal replication or growth of the cells by destroying our normal immune cells of the body. And next is radon gas. Okay, so radon gas is mainly coming from the breakdown of radioactive materials. Okay, so when these radioactive isotopes or materials or radiation in X-ray lab, so when they are exposed to these gases, okay, so these radioactive materials, when they break down, they form radon gas. So when person is exposed to these gases, again these gases has the ability to mutate our genes. Okay, so mutation means it is making that is, our cells are made up of DNA, so they will cause changes in the alteration in the DNA, so that DNA cannot be formed normally. So normal cells will not form, there will be abnormal growth of cells, that is called cancer. And next is asbestos. So asbestos are occupational chemicals, so they are from cement factory or any cement company. So like these companies, they have this asbestos. So from that also, if the person is inhaling the cement dust and the fumes, he can go for tumor. Okay, and air pollution. So in air pollution, even at domestic, that is household air pollution, like burning of wood, charcoal, or any cow dung. Okay, so that is the dry dung, okay, sheet of the cow, or residue from cooking, heating. Okay, when person is cooking everything in a chula, or that is in a open charcoal or wood gases, wood, when he is heating, these gases and fumes can cause mutation of the genes, and thereby they can go for the tumors. Okay, and next is genetics. So in genetics means by birth itself there is the mutation of DNA. Mutation of DNA is like, because in family someone having cancer, and the same gene is carried out to the children, and the children also will have this mutated DNA, and because of that they are more prone for cancers. Okay, next, it can be due to any exposure to environmental or occupational chemicals. Okay, so exposure to environmental or occupational chemicals. So first is metals like aluminum, cadmium, chromium, beryllium. So these are all metals which are manufactured in many companies, big industries. So when these industries will put out so many fumes or gases, so when a person is inhaling these gases, he can go for cancer because of the mutation. Okay, and combustion of coal tar production, diesel engine exhaust. Okay, so coal tar means for making roads, or they put this black color tar. Okay, so when they are heating this coal tar, again gases will get eliminated from this coal tar, and these gases are harmful to the persons, which can cause cancer. And diesel engine exhaust, okay, so that is from the diesel automobiles, everything, the air, polluted air is coming out, so these can also mutate the cells of the body. And next is ionizing radiation like X-ray and gamma rays, okay, so when a person is working in a area like healthcare industry where they are exposed to X-rays and gamma rays for a long time, this ionizing radiation will can cause cancer for this person. And toxic gases like ethers and fumes from painting, okay, so these are also again chemicals which will cause mutation of the DNA. And rubber production and crystalline silica dust, okay, so rubber companies which are producing this rubber goods and crystalline silica goods, these companies, they will give out the dust or fumes which can cause cancer for the person, okay, so these are the causes and risk factors of lung cyst and tumor. Okay, next coming to the pathophysiology of cyst and tumor. Okay, so in pathophysiology, first is exposure to any gases, pollutants, chemicals. Okay, so as I already said, there are so many chemicals, gases, fumes, etc., which is coming. These gases, when a person is inhaling, it will activate our oncogenes. Okay, onco means cancer. Cancer genes are our body, that is small things which will form the cells. Okay, so oncogenes, okay, so they will activate the cancer producing genes. Okay, so they will activate the cancer producing genes in our body, that is by epigenetic changes in the lung tissue. Okay, that means they will make, that is all cells are made up of DNA. So you know, any cell is made from DNA. Transcription, it becomes mRNA, and which is then translated. Okay, so by the process of transcription, they change to mRNA and they translated to a protein. This protein is the building block of a cell. Okay, so this DNA cell, they make the changes. Okay, so when these oncogenes, they get activated, they change. Epigenetic means they, on the genes of the cell, they make the changes. Okay, because of that alteration in DNA methylation and microRNA regulation. Methylation is nothing but the transcription process where the DNA is getting converted to mRNA, and microRNA regulation. Okay, that means RNA has to regulate and it has to form a protein. Okay, so this transcription and translation process will get altered when these when they are exposed to these chemicals which will activate the oncogenes. Okay, and because of this inactivation of tumor suppressor gene. Okay, so there is a gene called P53 which is a tumor suppressor gene, which is normally present in every individual. Okay, so tumor suppressor gene function is, whenever they know that some area there is abnormal multiplication of cells, this tumor suppressor gene will go and suppress the area so that they don't produce the extra cells. Okay, so whenever there is extra production, this tumor suppressor gene, which is present normally in every human being, they go and activate in that area so that the cells will not go for division. But here, because of the alteration in the DNA, the tumor suppressor gene itself is getting inactivated. Okay, that means they cannot do their normal function of suppressing the replication of cells. Okay, and resistance of cancer cells to oxidative stress. Okay, oxidative stress is, that is the, you know, in the cell formation cycle there are oxidation process. Okay, so this cancer cells will resist this oxidation process and they will exacerbate the inflammatory conditions by cancer cells. Okay, that means they form like a inflammatory area in that cells and they inhibit all the immune activity against tumor. Okay, so that is the P53 gene. And also our immune system, whenever it finds some abnormal cell is growing, it will inhibit this activity. But these cancer cells, they will resist everything. They make an area like an inflammation, and also they fight against the immune system and they will inhibit our immune activity against our tumor cells. Okay, so because of that, there is amplification of epidermal growth factor. Amplification is the epidermal growth factor is working in a faster rate. Okay, so in epidermal growth factor, so there will be formation, that is angioapoptosis. Okay, they inhibit apoptosis and formation of angiogenesis and multiplication of cells. Okay, so in amplification of epidermal growth factor, so this epidermal growth factor is responsible for multiplication of cells, angiogenesis is formation of blood vessels, and inhibit the apoptosis. Okay, apoptosis is programmed cell death. That is where I said already, whenever our body immune system or this p53 gene identify that there is abnormal growth of cell, they form a programmed cell death. Okay, that means they cause death of the cancer tissue. But in this condition, in patients with all this exposure to abnormal gases, there is amplification of epidermal growth factor. So because of this apoptosis, that is cell death is inhibited, but there is angiogenesis. Angio means blood vessel, genesis is formation. So they will form new blood vessels for the cancer tissue, and there will be multiplication of cells. Okay, because new angiogenesis will cause more production of blood vessels, and thereby more cells will be multiplied. Okay, so like this the cancer tumor cells will be formed. Okay, so because of this there is abnormal activation of stem cells. Stem cells are the germinating cells which will produce more number of cells. Okay, so when there is abnormal activation of stem cells, they form small cell carcinoma, and when there is uncontrolled epithelial cells, they form non-small cell lung carcinoma. Okay, coming to the classification of lung cancer, so as I already said in pathophysiology, so when there is abnormal growth of stem cells and the epithelial cells, there will be formation of non-small cell and small cell carcinoma. Okay, so non-small cell carcinoma this is a carcinoma which is more common in the bronchiolo-alveolar area. Okay, so in the bronchioles and alveolar area, these cells, these areas, they are more prevalent, and they are mainly formed from the excess growth of these epithelial cells. And small cell carcinoma, mainly they are formed because of the excess growth of the neurosecretory cells, and they are more common in the neurosecretory cells, and they are more common in the primary and secondary bronchus, and they form like a vesicles. Okay, so vesicles means fluid filled cavities. So the inside the fluid there will be neuroendocrine hormones. Okay, because these are neurosecretory cells are affected, they form so many hormones. These hormones will form like a vesicle, and these will get accumulated inside. Okay, so this is the specialty of small cell carcinoma, whereas non-small cell carcinoma is present in the bronchiolo and alveolar regions. Okay, and non-small cell carcinoma is again divided into three types, like adenocarcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, and large cell carcinoma. Okay, so adenocarcinoma is present in the epithelial cells, and it is distinct from that is it is differentiated from other cancer cells by their behavior, appearance, and their features and their prognosis. Okay, and all the molecules present, everything is different from other carcinoma, so it is called as adenocarcinoma. Okay, and squamous cell carcinoma, so this is more common in the bronchi, and it is the excess proliferation of the epithelial cells. And large cell carcinoma means they have a, as the name suggests, they are very big, they have a large cell, and the shape and size will be big without any cytologic architecture. That means we cannot find the we cannot measure the proper shape. It will be filling the large area, it will taking the large area space, and they don't have any architectic feature, means they cannot identify which area this cancer is there. Okay, we cannot measure the appropriate area of the size. So likewise they are classified into non-small cell and small cell carcinoma. Okay, and next there is a staging of cancers. Okay, so stages of lung cancer. So according to the according to their shape, size and their ability to metastasis, they are staging the cancer into 4. So in stage 1, the cancer size, so this is cancer, so you can see the cancer size is less than 3 centimeter and there is no metastasis. Okay, that means it is not metastasis is spreading to any other area. Okay, so that is stage 1. Okay, coming to stage 2, the cancer size is 3 to 6 centimeter, that is less than 6 centimeter and there is metastasis to one area. Okay, so somewhere nearby in the mediastinum or in the pleural area, so there is metastasis to one focal area, that is called stage 2. And stage 3 is the cancer size is more than 6 centimeter and there will be metastasis to lymph nodes. Okay, so there are mediastinal lymph nodes and other lymph nodes nearby, mesenteric and other lymph nodes, so they can spread to the lymph nodes, then we call it as stage 3. Okay, and stage 4 is when the cancer size you cannot measure, it is spreading all over. Okay, so that means you cannot differentiate the size and there is metastasis to distant organs. Okay, so that is distant part of the body like bone, brain or any abdominal organ. So anywhere if the cancer is metastasizing, then we call it as stage 4. Okay, so based on the size and how they are spreading to other organs, they are classified into 4 stages. Next, coming to the signs and symptoms of lung cancer. So first is cough. There will be persistent cough, that means continuous cough, and hemoptysis, because the cancer cells will go angiogenesis, that means they produce new blood vessels for themselves, and because of this so much blood will be there and patient will cough out blood, that is called hemoptysis. And weight loss, so again cancer cells are taking the energy for metabolism and nutrition is going for more and more growth of replication of cancer cells. So because of that patient weight will not be formed properly, so there will be weight loss and patient will have difficulty breathing, that is dyspnea, because cancer cells are obstructing the air passage and which can cause shortness of breath. Okay, and there will be chest pain, again cancer cells can compress the nearby nerves and they can show the pain. Okay, next coming to the diagnostic findings. So mainly we have to do a chest x-ray. So in chest x-ray you can identify there is some pulmonary infiltrates. So that means some infiltrate or cancer tissue extra growth we can see in the chest x-ray. Okay, and again CT imaging. So CT scan also will show presence of some abnormal tissue in the parts of the lungs. Okay, and then bronchoscopy. So bronchoscopy, so you can do a biopsy with bronchoscopy or CT guided biopsy. Okay, so biopsy is removing a small part of a tissue from the cancer cell and this will be sent for investigation to identify what type of carcinoma, whether it is small cell, non-small cells. So from this they can classify the type of carcinoma. Okay, and then they do a scan called PET, that is positron emission tomography CT. Okay, so in this they inject a injection glucose. This glucose, if at all it is a normal cell, they will use the glucose for metabolism. Okay, so after injecting then they do a CT scan and abnormal cells they don't use the glucose. So in the positron emission tomography you can identify the color changes in the normal and abnormal cells. And endoscopic ultrasonography, so again they send a scope inside the inside the body. So either by doing a thoracoscope or making a hole on the thoracic cavity, they send the endoscope, so that is a fiber optic lens catheter, so that in that area they can again see the cancer cells and from that they can take the tissue and they send it for investigation. Okay, so endoscopic ultrasound is done when the cancer cells are deep inside the lungs. Okay, so in the bronchial alveolar area, because through bronchoscopy you cannot enter deep inside the lungs. So they make a thoracoscope on the chest wall and then they do a endoscopic ultrasound. Okay, and then pulmonary function test. So this is like a spirometry. The person will be asked to breathe inside the spirometer, and then they will see the lung capacity. So here we can identify how much patient's lung compliance is there. Okay, and ABG analysis, here again saturation will be low and oxygenation will be low. That is partial pressure of oxygenation will be low and partial pressure of carbon dioxide will be high. Okay, so these are the studies are done in case of cancer. Okay, then coming to the management. So mainly the management will include surgery. So because cancer we have to first treat with surgery, then chemotherapy. So after surgery we will do we will put a chemical agents in order to prevent the further growth of cancer in that area. Okay, chemotherapy and radiation therapy. So radiation therapy can also control the growth of cancer cells. Then recently immunotherapy has come. So this is the advanced therapy in order to prevent the immune system that is getting inhibited against the cancer cells. Okay, so this immunotherapy is done, and otherwise they also go for a palliative care because cancer is like when patient is in very serious condition or in the fourth stage, there is no use of going for surgery, so we have to do a palliative care. So these are the management. So first in chemotherapy in case of small cell lung carcinoma. Okay, small cell lung carcinoma, the group of drugs used are cisplatin, etoposide, carboplatin, gemcitabine, paclitaxel, vinorelbine, topotecan and irinotecan. Okay, so these are all chemotherapy drugs. So as per the doctor's advice, they use this combination of drugs. And in non-small cell lung carcinoma, again they use almost same drugs with little changes. Okay, cisplatin, carboplatin, gemcitabine, docetaxel, paclitaxel, pemetrexed, etoposide and vincristine. Okay, so these are the group of chemotherapy drugs given. So mostly chemotherapy is followed after a surgery. Okay, in surgical therapy, first is wedge resection. So wedge resection means small wedge portion of the lung is removed. That means in which area cancer is there, that part like this they will remove. Okay, surrounding little area and the cancer area they remove, that is called as wedge resection. Okay, and they also can do a lobectomy. Lobectomy is removal of the complete lobe. Okay, so you know the left lung is made up of 2 lobes and the right lung is made up of 3 lobes. So if the cancer is in a bigger, wider stage, in stage 2 or 3, when it is very big, then they remove the complete lobe. Okay, and next is pneumonectomy. So in pneumonectomy, they remove the complete lung. Okay, so because 2 lungs are there, patient can survive with 1 lung. So they do a removal of complete lung. If the cancer is in the third stages and it is having lymph node metastasis, then they can remove the complete lung. Okay, but the survival rate is very low, but they do this procedure in case of patient is having cancer. Okay, and this surgical therapy will be followed with the chemotherapy and radiation therapy. Next comes the radiation therapy. So in radiation therapy, either external beam or brachytherapy will be done. Okay, so external beam is the patient's body area where the cancer is there, that area will be exposed to the ionizing radiation and that will kill the cancer cells. And brachytherapy is in the directly in the airway passage where the cancer cell is there. On the airway passage they will insert a radioactive beam and that will slowly be in that place and they will kill the cancer cells. Okay, and the latest innovation or for most advanced cancers they give targeted immunotherapy. So in this epidermal growth factor inhibitor. Okay, so mainly this growth factor is growing more and more, which is producing abnormal multiplication of cells. So they will inhibit the growth factor by a immune therapy called erlotinib and afatinib. Okay, so this will prevent the cancer growth. And monoclonal antibody they will inject, which will prevent metastasis. Metastasis is spreading to other areas, that is denosumab. Okay, other than this they will give palliative care in difficulty, so we must make sure the patient pain is relieved by giving analgesics. And breathing difficulty, we use oxygen therapy. Okay, sometimes patient may need a lifelong oxygen therapy, so that will be taken care of. Okay, and then patient's nutrition has to be met as per the needs and as per the condition of the patient. Nutrition has to be met. Okay, and whenever patient is having cancer, it causes fear, anxiety in the patient, and it is a very dreadful situation for the patient. Okay, so patient psychologically will be affected, so patient will be given counseling and psychosocial care. And some patients with chemotherapy, they have so many side effects like alopecia, that is hair loss, and they will body will go for weight loss. So because of that, they feel ashamed to come outside and may make social relationships. So we have to give advice or give advice related to give counseling for those persons. Okay, and then the person has to maintain all the daily activities of daily living. So as soon as if he is not able to do, we have to we have to do or help the person or assist the person in doing the activities of daily living. Okay, and mainly prevention strategy is we have to ask the person to stop smoking. Okay, smoking is the main cause, so you have to stop smoking and wear mask when he's going to any polluted area. And in the industries and radiation areas, they have to have a badge which will measure the radiation exposure of the particular person, and every according to the standard norms, they have to keep checking the badge. And then if they are if they are of high risk of exposure, they are highly exposed to the radiation, then they have to be relieved from those occupational areas. Okay, so like that we have to tell the health education the person. Okay, so this is about lungs and cystic tumor. I hope you have understood. If you like the class, please share and subscribe.